Hi, my name is John Wilhelm. I'm from Laramie, Wyoming. I'm going to talk to you today about composing with field recording and the field recorder. I'm the composition resident at Jentel this time. First slide. So, field recordings are fundamentally any audio recording made outside of a traditional recording studio. You can see my friend and colleague and contributor here. This is Lander-based performance artist Oakley Boycott recording a barber pole that's housed in a museum. That little contraption in their hands is a field recording kit that I have put together that I'll talk more about in a little bit. These recordings are going to be inherently documentary in nature. Folks may be familiar with Alan Lomax's work documenting music of the American culture in the middle part of the 20th century. They are inherently portable. That thing is quite tiny, quite lightweight. Relatively accessible compared to a traditional recording studio, which is quite expansive and uses a lot of equipment that can't easily move from place to place. And then this whole process for me is about these field recordings becoming the raw materials for creative work, which is how I got into making compositions that are kind of like musical compositions culled from these sound recordings. So the next slide, thank you. So the one I want to talk to you today is a sound installation that's inside a collaborative, moving public art piece called High Iron. Currently it's situated in Laramie, Wyoming, where I live, but it is moving to Cheyenne in the end of the summer, and then in subsequent years we'll move down the line of the Transcontinental Railroad, going to Rollins, going to Rock Springs, going to Evanston in each subsequent year. So what the artists who built this installation did is they took this decommissioned train car, cleaned it out on the inside, and they installed a whole series of public art pieces that are all meant to stand as a monument to the labor that goes into building the railroad, and specifically talking about the fact that this was immigrant labor primarily that built this that built the structure that in so many ways kind of solidified the geography that we think of as the American West. So my contribution to this is a looping sound installation that plays inside the piece in conversation with all of the other works inside. And that composition, which you're going to hear in a second, is layered sound recordings of present day workers at the railroad, working on the railroad, and recordings I made or the artists they made themselves, people who had been making the work that came into High Iron. They recorded their process of work, etching, scratching, painting on things. What you're going to hear in this next recording is actually the sounds of the muralist who painted this mural on the outside, the sounds of her washing and prepping and cleaning the train car before she can even paint on it. I'll play that. Yeah, if you got more juice, give it to him. Yeah, so that beginning is a steam locomotive. It's called Big Boy. It lives in Cheyenne and travels all across the United States. It's one of the largest still running steam locomotives in the country. And then followed quickly by my collaborator and artist friend Amanda scrubbing the outside of that train car with a wire brush. Next. So, what do we want to do once we've got these recordings? I can manipulate them by just layering, play one recording, play it next to it, or I can play them stacked on top of each other, or I can start doing things that are like slightly more technological. That the crew in the back is laughing because I've already explained this stuff to them a little bit. This is kind of a very esoteric modular synthesizer. It's a sampler. It takes in recorded audio, plays it back at varying speeds, pitches, and durations. So this is that very first clip you heard, that very first train sound, looped, layered, and then further processed by this funny musical instrument with knobs and wires and jacks. So this creative process requires access to these recordings, these sound recordings. Of course, a person can go out and collect them and gather them themselves, but there's a lot of resources for how to share and use this stuff. My process of making this kind of work spurred on another idea that I want to talk about now with you, which is a project I'm calling the Audio Library of the West. This is an online community-based resource that I'm currently in the very middle of, the messy middle of building. It serves as a repository of these sound recordings, a place where I or anyone else who so chooses can submit them. They live on here, and then they're able to be used by other creatives as a source of this kind of inspiration. You can make the kind of work that I'm making. But because it's a library, much like the library we're sitting in right now, it doesn't have to be used for creative work. It's used for and access to everyday individuals, people that are just curious about the way the Western United States sounds, feels, at least anything that goes in your ears. The other half of this stuff is because I am an artist, because I love to make this kind of work. I'm going to try and make this venture a place where people who make the kind of work I do, also very similar to Sean, who you heard from earlier, this can be a nexus, a gathering point for this work that is frankly kind of experimental and not always really seen as being applicable to fine art, visual arts, and is always begging the question of, can this really count as music? So when in that messy middle in between those two places, there sometimes isn't a lot of opportunity or community for this kind of work to thrive. So I'm hoping this will be a place for that. Thanks to, this is the part where I have to say a little script, thanks to the generous gift of the University of Wyoming and the Wyoming Innovation Partnership, I received a sizable grant last year to build this project, which means I now have funds to pay people to make these recordings, to go out into the field. That earlier photograph of Oakley holding the thing that looked like a Attack of the World alien with microphones on it is an example of a field kit that I can put in the mail, send to someone anywhere in the Western US, and they'll make recordings for me as well. Then that material ends up back in the library for all of us. Next. So here, at our residency, you can see those fetching orange vests. That's the cohort that you've seen talk to you here this afternoon, walking into the distance. Probably wondering what the hell I'm doing, why I'm not following them, but standing back here with my camera. While I'm working here at this residency program, I'm taking a great opportunity to collect and build this library catalog of Western sounds. I'm also spending an awful lot of time collecting visuals like this, experimenting in new, slightly different forms.